Okay, so this is the Viking Age listening lesson, saying goodbye. 6.7, I have it uploaded on Google Classroom as a smart technology where you can go in and you can take these vocabulary terms and you can match them up. So indistinguishable, impossible to understand. That's like muttering, like saying, I want to go to bed, but instead you say, I don't want to go to bed, and you can't really understand. I drew this picture of lap to splash, so I was drawing it, trying to record, and you can see. Splashing. Mast is the cell, that's the part of the cell, the pole that's supporting the cell. Sheath, we made our swords on Friday, and that's the covering for the sword, and exclaimed, crying out like super excited. Okay, now on your other lesson, when I told you, I asked you to listen to this first. It's asking some questions like retell the plot of what happened. So thinking about what happened before has to do with the sword making, if you remember, of sagas and swords. And try to, if you can type it, then just putting in first, next, last. If you're not able to type it, then just telling an adult or somebody there what happened if they're available. And then answering where will Bjorn and Tully be traveling to. If you remember, why are they leaving their homeland? And will Tully and Bjorn travel in a cargo ship or longship? All those questions are on the smart notebook activity that you'll be doing. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the actual listening lesson. Okay, this is entitled again, Saying Goodbye. I awoke long before dawn and lay in bed listening to the sound of breathing. I heard my sister Kidda laughing in her sleep and my grandfather snoring. Occasionally I heard Tully mutter some indistinguishable words. This was the day I had dreaded. This was the day when I would leave my family forever and begin a journey of many days of sailing that would take Tully and me across the great ocean of the north. I did not like this day. I wanted to wish it away, but I was powerless to do so. I lay there for the longest time until finally I heard my grandmother begin her morning chores. I dressed myself in the new blue tunic and woolen pants that had been given to me the night before. Tully had received a woolen tunic and pants too. My tunic was edged in yellow cloth and Tully's was edged in red cloth. When our family members presented us with our new clothes, Aunt Kristen, Tully's mother, explained why she had chosen those colors. I chose red for Tully to match his temper, she said jokingly, and yellow for Bjorn to match the color of his hair. You can see in the picture, you see that his hair is yellow. Remember, a tunic was kind of like a robe that went around, and they would tie it around the waist right there. Once dressed, I helped my grandmother rebuild the fire by placing twigs and then fresh logs on the embers. By the time my father, mother, and aunt and uncle arrived at the hearth, the flames were already burning, warm and strong. As usual, the porridge was prepared and the bread dough was placed in the embers on an iron rack to bake. Okay, so just take a moment and think about what was the color of Tully's tunic, something to match his temper, and what was the color of Bjorn's and what did it match? The children were awakened and sent off to do their daily chores. Before long, it was time to sit at the hearth for our final meal together. No one said very much. It was clear that although the adults believed that it was safer for us in Iceland, they were also sad to see us leave home. We ate in silence until Kidda suddenly exclaimed, I don't know what to name my chicks. Would it be okay if I named one Bjorn and one Tully? She asked with a serious look on her face. What if they are not roosters? Asked my brother Carl. I don't think they'll mind what we call them, as long as it's not dinner, Arnston replied, and we laughed in agreement. Okay, what is it that Kidda is so excited for that she realized that she did not do? Okay, and what does she want to name those chicks? Okay, on to our next one. Eventually, it was time for Tully and me to collect the few possessions we owned and now stored in an animal skin and make our way to the cargo ship. Together, we all trudged through the narrow streets to the wharf. The other boys were already there and were also saying their final farewells. Then slowly, one by one, they boarded the ship. Tully and I hugged everyone one last time and began to walk toward the waiting sea vessel. Bjorn, you have forgotten something, my father said as he came toward me. It was my sword, foe biter. I had been carrying it proudly with the rest of my possessions, but as we left the house, Kidda ran into my arms and I had quickly placed it on a small table. In my sadness, I had forgotten to pick it up again. I reached out to take it and saw that my father had placed it in a new leather sheath. Your grandfather made this sheath for you, he said, looking at me intently. I wish you well, my son. May the gods be ever at your side. Then he turned and walked away. My grandfather's gift was almost the last straw. So in this saying, the last straw means that the last thing he can handle. If you look at his eyes, can you see that he kind of looks like he's sad, like he's going to cry any minute? I wasn't sure I could hold back from crying any longer, let alone board the ship. I wanted to run to him, but Toli, sensing my great sadness, grabbed my arm and pushed me toward the waiting ship. Neither of us said a word as we stood together for a long while watching the sailors row the cargo ship out to sea and away from our homeland. Toli, will we ever see them again? I asked, not really expecting a reply. If Odin wishes it, Toli replied softly. When I could no longer see the coastline, I began to look around the ship. Our cargo ship was a strong 50-foot vessel, built and designed like all cargo ships, to withstand the mightiest waves. Toli, who loved ships, had already explained to me that once our ship reached deeper waters, the sailors would put away the oars and raise the large square sail. He had also explained that cargo ships were rounder, deeper, and shorter than warships, so they were more able to carry cargo to trade. Okay, so this is a cutaway image of, we see, if you can see, let's see, I'll point to it or circle it. We can see the barrels inside of this cargo ship. See how it's cut away right here? It shows through the picture of what's going on. And so with this, we have the cargo or the goods carried. You can see the barrels, and then you can see, of course, the buoys. And then maybe some big packages right here is what it looks like. Toli continued with his lesson on ships once we were settled on board. Bjorn, our ships are unique, he had explained. They are powered by both the oar and the sail. Our warships or longships are designed to carry many warriors who can row or sail the ship while staying close to the coastline. At sunset, the warriors row their ships inland and camp for the night. Cargo ships sail farther out in the ocean, but spend the night in a deep water harbor. Or, if the waves are calm, they will lower the sail and drop the anchor, waiting until sunrise to continue their journey. They try to avoid coming too close to shore so the tide, which comes and goes twice a day, won't push them toward coastal rocks. Do you know why our ships are so strong and powerful? Toli asked as we stood watching the waves lap against the side of the boat and the seabirds circle overhead.
That's what I've been doing.
Not exactly, I replied.
Custodian job.
Well, it's because of how they are built, Toli explained eagerly. You see, shipbuilders use long, thin planks of oak wood to make the hull or body of the ship. These planks are fastened to the keel or backbone of the ship and then to each other with iron nails. One plank overlaps the other. The floor timbers are also attached to the keel. Then crossbeams are added, and the mast is held firmly in place by a heavy timber mounting. I didn't mind that Toli suddenly had so much to say about ships. His constant talking helped to take my mind off my family. I stood beside him for the longest time, listening to the sound of his voice and wishing that I could fly like Thor's hammer back to my family.